Hi.
Hey.
Finally. I was like, what's going on? I'm so glad. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm quite good, and you?
I'm good.
I
Okay,
was trying.
so let me
I
introduce
was.
myself. My name is Rhoda Aglago. I'm the host and founder of Love, Forgive, Live podcast. Joining me here is Mr. Douglas. Wait,
Bosibori, Osoro
Bosibori.
Bosibori.
Yes, Bosibori,
Yeah,
acting deputy medical director of, is it Naisha?
Naivasha.
Naivasha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Naivasha,
Sub-county hospital.
South County,
Sub. SUB. Sub-county hospital
South County Hospital
uh,
in Kenya.
in Kenya. Yes,
Okay, good. I
correct.
wanted to make sure I get that right. So, first of all, introduce yourself. I'm very excited. When I met you, I was very impressed because you're a
Mm-hmm,
brilliant young man
mm-hmm,
with forward thinking ideas about mental health and the medical work environment. And
mm-hmm,
especially knowing that what COVID brought up and the
mm-hmm.
difficulty the staff was having, you recognize the need
Yeah.
and implemented what? Go ahead and introduce yourself even more.
So, my name is Dr. Douglas Osoro Bosibori. I am the acting deputy medical director of Naivasha
Mhm,
Sub-County Hospital, which is
mhm,
the second biggest hospital within the county of Nakuru, which is in Kenya.
mhm.
We typically serve about 600 patients a day,
Oh, wow.
with about 300 inpatients or 300 bed capacity, with
Mhm.
a very restricted workforce of about 300 to 400 employees, which includes
Oh, my God.
doctors, nurses, people who help us clean the hospital, guards, and all that. So we are a very small workforce for a very big client population.
Mhm.
We serve about the town that we are in. We serve about maybe something like 400,000 people,
Oh,
with the
wow.
greater being 800,000. The greater sub county being 800.
Mhm.
So
Busy.
sorry, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy on our staff and on our patients as well.
Mhm.
So during COVID, we were tasked with developing protocols that are going to help us serve these patients who are affected with COVID appropriately.
Mhm.
Um, so I was in charge of infection control, meaning I'm the person who was who was in charge of developing protocols of
Yes.
cleaning of like decontaminating of people who are going into the isolation room,
Mhm.
developing treatment protocols. So uh, part of the thing that I saw we should do is
Mhm.
mental health, and that's how I came to talk to you, Doc. Yeah. So I
Yes.
don't know. I hope that's a good intro. That was a long introduction, but I hope it was a good
But
introduction.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need because we want to make sure we have uh, we know what is going on and know what you do and what you're encountering in the workfield,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the hospital, because we
Mm-hmm.
have no idea. So you have to be able to tell
Mm-hmm.
us so that we get an idea of what
Mm-hmm.
that is and the impact
Yeah.
of how that is how that is affecting the staff.
Yeah.
Good. Now I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions. So
Mm-hmm.
brace yourself.
Okay.
Um,
I'm ready.
My first question is this: what obstacles did you encounter when you proposed the idea of mental health benefits for your hospital staff?
So, um, as I mentioned, we're a very small hospital in terms of workforce,
Hmm.
serving a big population of patients.
Yes.
So what comes with that is financial constraints.
Mm.
Um, we have uh, our budget is very strict, and we were struggling, or we are still struggling with finances. So um and we do not have, as the hospital management team, we do not have employing or hiring capacity. So that's one hurdle that we had to jump through, like to make sure that we put mechanisms in place that will make sure that mental health is taken seriously. So what we did is we asked for permission from the county, or our bosses. It took a long time for them to agree, but the main challenge that we had was financial. Number two, mental health is regarded as a weakness in most settings in Africa,
Yes.
or in the world, really. It's not only in
Yes.
Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So people have this notion that when you're struggling mentally, you are weak.
Yes.
So that was the other challenge that we had to go through, and tell people like, hey, you can be fine, you can be smiling now, but the next few minutes you might be crying and you do not know why.
Yes.
The
Truth.
other hurdle was we did not know we did not know where to get mental health counselors from, or mental health experts from.
Wow.
So because the healthcare in my county, or in our country, is not really set to accommodate mental health as part of the healthcare. So
Mm.
we had to switch things around and make sure that we are accommodating mental health experts in the healthcare system.
Wow. That's a big feat.
Yeah, so we had to push a lot. We had to sacrifice a few things in terms of budgets, but we made it happen. Yeah.
So, of course, my next one is this. What prompted this huge task that has been around in the society for
Mm.
so long, and yet it went unnoticed,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's being brought up?
That's a very good question. I guess we recognize that mental health is important. But when COVID came, it unearthed a lot of things that we take for granted in our healthcare systems.
Yes.
One of them was mental health. I remember there was a time I was a supervising manager in the isolation unit. Isolation unit is where COVID patients were held, the really sick COVID patients, the ones who are highly infectious. I remember uh, as a supervising manager, you have to make sure that people are wearing the hazmat suits correctly, and they go in, and they're coming out. You have to make sure that they are decontaminated appropriately, so that they don't infect themselves and the rest of the population.
Yes, of course.
I remember one staff went in. She had been working like she had been working a lot. So I remember she went in. She was on what we call autopilot mode,
Oh
and she did
my.
not have time to process her emotions. So she had seen a lot of deaths, like a lot of older uh, older patients with
Your
very.
volume turned down a bit. Could you
Uh,
increase it? Your
sorry.
volume went down. Okay, much better.
Oh, much better.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember she she had seen a lot of deaths, and I don't think she had time to process her emotions.
Mm.
So there was once she just sat on the kind of the what we call a nursing room, where patients debrief afterwards.
Yes.
She was out of it, like she was just looking, staring in the blank, because she had seen a death, like probably like the third death that day.
Oh my gosh.
So and I was the supervising manager. So that's when I was like, oh, something needs to be done about this. And so we pitched the idea to the administration, and the administration took it seriously. But so long story short, COVID brought out a lot of things, but one of the things that it brought out was the need for mental health
Yes.
for our healthcare system.
Yes, because it was so unnoticed in the
Yes.
culture and in the profession, and pushed aside as
Yes.
though it doesn't matter and it's not making an impact on your daily life.
Yes.
Until it came up. So this is what I feel COVID has exposed globally. All the stuff that we kept pushing down and acting like it's not there came all the way out.
Yeah.
And it's like, now what are you going to do? Deal.
Yeah.
You can't pretend anymore.
You can't. It's here, so you can't avoid it. You can't push it aside anymore. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And and of course, when you contemplated this idea and bringing it out to the forefront for this to be dealt with and talked to the administration, what was some of the thoughts that were going through your mind?
So, first of all, I thought they would say no, because
it hasn't been dealt with for so long.
Yeah, because we've never seen anything like we've never thought anything like this. Secondly, I remember having to processing that. I'm like, okay, if they say no, I will have to be a mental health expert. I'll need to take a short course somewhere, which is
yeah, that's gonna be quite a lot of work, but
yeah, it's a lot of work, but on the positive side, I remember thinking that, hey, if they say yes, we will be able to deal with a lot. We'll be able to put a lot right that we have not been doing before. Luckily, they said yes. And it's something that honestly they had been thinking, but they did not have that push to get over the line and start implementing. So the first few moments of implementations were very key and were very difficult, but we moved things around pretty quickly, and we made it happen.
Okay. And then who or what inspired you to take on such a feat during this pandemic?
So personally, I have a very old grandma who I used to think, would I want someone who, if the worst happened, my grandma is sick, would I want someone who is mentally tired, would I want such a person to handle one of the people that I love most in the world?
Wow.
So as a man, as a person who makes decisions in that hospital, I took that personally, and I took that personal initiative to try and push for mental health as part of the implementing processes in the hospital. Yeah. So that was on a personal level. On another level, I saw how you could tell people who are mentally stable or not stable. That's a wrong word to use. I take that back. Mentally okay, they're not tired, they're not ill. You could see how they were happily serving clients, and how patients were responding to them, as opposed to someone who's been working for a week straight, very tired, going through things at home. You could tell the difference in terms of how satisfied or unsatisfied the patients were. So that was on professional level. I thought that was important that we implement that for our patients as well, and clients as well. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. with the love of your grandmother, who you love dearly and cherish,
Yeah.
and of course, recognizing if she was sick and go to the hospital, would you want someone who is not fully there?
Yeah.
Because that individual has been dealing with their own stressors,
Yeah.
not only at home, but at work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's overwhelming to them. And now a patient comes in and they're supposed to give this patient 110% and make sure that everything that patient need is taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, that person doesn't have the tools
Yeah.
or the capability.
Yeah.
Emotionally, they're drained.
Yeah.
Psychologically, they have no clue
Yeah.
how to handle
How to
their
handle it.
own situation.
Yeah.
And then coming into space where they have to create a space for the healing to take place. And if they're not healing themselves, if they're not recognizing their own emotional needs, how can they give that to a patient?
Yep.
And that inspired you
Yep.
to put into action something that is not done.
Yep. One of my favorite quotes is, "You cannot pour from an empty cup." Right.
That's right. And I'll top that. My grandmother always says, the emptiest barrel makes the loudest noise. Because when it's empty, it'll make noise because it has nothing
to give.
to give.
Yeah.
And so, yes, because they have to fill their cup in order to be able to pour.
Yeah.
And if they don't have it, it'll just make noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And be, because if the barrel has nothing in it, boom, anything that counts blows them.
Yeah.
Because they're not stable.
They're not stable. They are not present.
They're not present, and they can't see.
They can't
hear.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, because I'm so glad you were inspired, and kudos to Grandma with her love, because she gave you something very powerful.
Yeah.
And when did you realize that there's a need, but not just a need, but something that will sustain the staff? When did you recognize this was it?
So again, it had been like that. The need had been at the back of my mind, or of our mind, for a long time, even before COVID.
Oh wow!
Something that we had been talking about, but we did not have enough push to go over the line and start. Because we were dealing with very different kind of circumstances. When COVID came, first of all, we did not have a COVID unit to start with.
Oh my!
We had to create a new department. So we had to ask the staff, hey, who wants, or we need this number of doctors, we need this number of nurses, we need this number of other healthcare workers.
Wow.
Who is going? We do not want to force anyone to work in the isolation. We want people to come on their own free will, and we will still be working in the hospital, but under a different department, under a different manager, under different circumstances and conditions.
Yes.
So, first of all, people volunteered to come. Hey, we have an amazing workforce and staff.
Wow, love that.
So people volunteered, they came, and they're if there's anyone who's going to do it, I'll do it for the patients. So I remember 2 months in, after a lot of work, a lot of people exerting themselves, one of the staff came to me, and she was Doc, they call me Doc. I've been struggling with something that I need you to help me with. And okay, I can make sure the administration hears you. And she was like, no, it's something personal that I feel like is affecting my work.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a volunteer, not someone that we had pushed there.
Yes.
So she went through everything that she was going through, and you realize that it's not only at the workplace, it's at home, it's her friends. So what she was going through was stigma. People didn't want to hang out with her because she was working in a COVID unit.
Oh my.
They did not want her to be infect them, and even her husband kind of separated from her. So, and I could see that this is something that is really affecting not only her as a person, because
Yes.
I have for me, the person comes first and then the work second. I can deal with, like, we can easily transfer people to work, but we cannot transfer people, like, we cannot have a new person. We cannot have a new
No.
person in people. So if
Exactly.
you are struggling mentally, I will take your personal life seriously first, and then your professional life, we can talk about that.
That's brilliant. Thank goodness.
So I remember, like, I listened to her for like 15 minutes. She honestly needed someone to talk to, someone to rant to.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to her for like 15 to 20 minutes. And then I was like, okay, how can I help you? How do you want me to help you? She
Yes.
was like, oh, I just needed someone to listen.
Oh.
So something funny happened. I told her, like, hey, just whenever you want to talk, come to me, we will talk.
Mm-hmm.
In the evening, someone else came to me with the same thing or similar circumstances in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. So I went to my bosses and asked, hey, have you guys noticed that trend? Like, people are suffering, like, especially the ones who are working in the COVID unit, are suffering from something that is not only within the hospital but outside the hospital. And like
Mm-hmm.
three other people came out. They're like, oh yeah, I have talked to three other people, four people. That's when we realized that, hey,
Wow. That's a serious need.
yeah, that's a serious need. Like, so in confidentiality, like, we knew, like, people were coming to us, and because we wanted to be confidential,
Mm-hmm.
they did not want us, they did not want anyone else to know the problem, but it was a
Of
common
course.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's when we thought that it's time. It was time to
Mm-hmm.
put a stop to everything else and put our stuff first. And that's why when we said, first of all, COVID exposed this, everything, that this is one way it exposed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious to know who did you go to for encouragement to keep going on this? Because this was not easy. And
Mhm.
to see day in and day out, who did you go to for encouragement to keep going?
Two people. My boss, who is the CEO of the hospital, who is the managing director of the hospital. She's fantastic. She's a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So once, and she puts mental health as a priority since COVID happened. So me and her were continuously encouraging each other. We are like, hey, staff are important. If we want people to survive this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So our, our our thinking was, we either lose staff uh, by them being tired and quitting the hospital,
Mm.
or we lose staff by the the worst case scenario, where they are very, very tired and they harm themselves.
Yes.
So we have to fix something. So we did not want patients to quit. We did not want staff to quit and leave,
Mm-hmm.
or staff to harm themselves.
Yes.
So I remember we leaned on each other every time we we checked something on the process of hiring a mental health expert. We were like, oh, finally we have funding. Oh, finally we have a space for her to sit. Oh, finally
Yes.
we have a list of people that, or we have a list of cadres that we want them to see.
Mm-hmm.
We want her to see. So we leaned on each other. Let me not say I leaned on her. We leaned on each other mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other was the hospital staff, honestly. I will never stop singing praise to my staff in the hospital. They are amazing people. And every time they did a good thing, you could see the joy. Every time they save a life, you could see how happy they are.
Oh,
Oh,
kudos to
how,
them.
yeah.
They are, this definitely we call the healthcare workers now heroes because they sucked out and creating a space for patients to put their lives into their hands.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And and to think like we have a staff who had a 2-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
a young lady, a 23-year-old lady who had a 2-year-old. And I remember when she signed up, like I did not know that she had a 2-year-old.
Mm.
So I was like, wait, your baby, what about your baby? She's like, hey, if I don't do it for this issue, I remember her exact words were,
Mm-hmm.
this could be my mother who is sick.
Oh.
I am going to make sure that my baby is taken care of by other people, so that I can take care of the really sick
What
people.
a
So,
beautiful, special individual.
yeah, healthcare workers can never be praised enough.
Yes.
And I usually insist on this. Like, healthcare workers sacrificed a lot during, and really other frontline workers as well. They sacrificed a lot during the
Yes.
pandemic, and
Yes.
we should never ever take that for granted. We should never take these
Absolutely not. You're the
people
backbone.
for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So,
Brilliant.
long story short, my bosses were my people that I leaned on, and the healthcare workers. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And in doing so, what would you say is the most difficult part of all this task?
The most difficult part is when so initially, as I said, the first part of implementing it was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when the counselor comes back to you and says like, hey, there are people that I cannot get through to.
Mm-hmm.
There are staff that I cannot get through to.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually was like, hey, you are the expert. How can you not get
That's
but
funny.
but she was like, hey, just I need A, B, C, D, and I'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we provided her with all the resources that she needed to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who you realize that they needed longer hours or a longer period with the counselor, and yeah, that strained our health.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that when someone is going through something mentally, they cannot be productive. So you have to fill in, or have to find ways of filling in this or their space with someone else. And as I said, with the limited workforce that we have, or with the limited healthcare workforce that we have, we had to move around
Of
and
course.
strain other departments and make sure that their departments or their space is covered. So,
Okay. So my next question I will ask you says, what would you say is the hardest and most difficult part of implementing this if someone from another place, another country, or another hospital wants to implement the same thing? What would you say is the most difficult thing you would tell them that are the hardest part of this?
changing the mindset of people that you going through something mentally does not mean that you are weak.
The cultural stuff.
Changing that mindset you will struggle. I promise you, you will struggle, and it's not easy. And it's not only for the people who are going through mental health illnesses, it's for other people, how other people perceive them.
Yes.
So if it's, for example, if I'm depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are used to seeing me as this jovial person who is running around the hospital, smiling, laughing, and implementing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I keep quiet, when I'm going through depression or anxiety, people
Yes.
are like, "Oh, he is not as strong as we thought he is." I'm usually like, "Hey, listen, it's depression and anxiety is not a measure of strength or weakness.
Yes.
It's something that is normal and happens and should be taken seriously. And
Yes.
we need to have conversation about not perceiving other people as weak if they are going through. Just I usually ask them like, hey, you sometimes have allergies. Does
Mm.
that mean that you're weak? No.
Ooh, I like
You
that.
are just sick. You are not weak.
Right there.
You are just sick. You are not weak. You are just sick, and you need to take care of that.
Yes.
You need to take therapeutics options, be it social or pharmacological therapeutic options, but you are not weak.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, because I can imagine the cultural implication and the societal expectations needs to be broken down.
Mm-hmm.
Walls need to be broken down. You're
Yeah.
going to have to work hard.
Yeah.
You know, because with being from my Ghanaian culture too, it's the same thing. They will look at it, they frown upon it, don't
Mm-hmm.
even speak about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that it's unfair because every human being, I don't care who you are,
Mm-hmm.
there's bound to be something that will put you in a state where you'll be like, whew, what was that? And there's this thing I one time I said in one of the program, the podcast. I said, every hero has a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Every hero has doubt. Every hero has told themselves these things. I can't. It's impossible. How am I
Yeah.
going to do this? This
Yeah.
is overwhelming. Who gets to do this? But the fact of the matter is, the fear will come, the anxiety will come, the doubt will come, but walking through in spite of all that, that's what makes someone a hero.
Mm-hmm.
So that inner strength that everybody says, oh yeah, I thought they were strong. Well, you know what? Until you face your situations
Mm-hmm.
and stare it down and still stand, that's what makes a person stronger.
Exactly.
Until you walk through it
Mm-hmm.
and recognize the moments where you felt weak
Mm-hmm.
and you still stood up and decide to go forward,
Mm-hmm.
that's what the strength is made out of.
Yep.
If someone has never stared down their weakness
Mm-hmm.
or their fears, how can they be sure that they are actually strong?
Exactly.
If
That's
you're
exactly.
always having all strength,
Mm-hmm.
prove it. Until you go through the pain, until you
Yeah.
go through the despair, if you've never fallen, how
Mm-hmm.
can you learn how to rise?
You cannot.
Until you've hit that bottom and fallen and realized, man, okay, I gotta figure this out. That's where you figure out, hey, it's not a problem if I reach out my hand and say, okay, could someone give me a hand here?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I get something here? Can I get the help? Can I
Yeah.
speak to someone to help me out? Right now, the situation is getting so far ahead of myself that I don't even know where the door is anymore, even though I walked through the door to get to this place.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've fallen and I'm on the ground, I
Yeah.
need to know how to rise.
Mm-hmm.
Until you've fallen, you would not know how to rise enough to be able to tell those that are coming from behind you,
Mm-hmm.
say, this is the path.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to be hard. And I know that you're feeling like it's impossible, but it
This
is.
is the path. Yeah. I usually tell my staff that the people who say, "Hey, I need help," those are the strongest people that you can ever find.
Yes.
It's very difficult to say, like, "Hey, me as Dr. Bosibori, I cannot do A, B, C, D. I need help in A, B, C, D."
Yes.
Because people, as I said, people have this notion that I'm strong because I can do everything. I cannot do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather be considered strong because I said I cannot do this, this, and
Yes.
this, rather than pretending that I can do and do a
Yes.
good job about it.
Yes.
So if I'm struggling mentally, I don't want to pretend that, hey, I am 100% when I'm 20%, right?
Yes.
I would be like, hey, I cannot do this because I am struggling with A, B, C, D. I
Mm-hmm.
need help in A, B, C, D, E.
Yes.
So
And that's
that,
when,
for me, that's a measure of being strong.
yes. And
Yeah.
I second that by saying, I did a module on this and I said, your vulnerability is your superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing what you see yourself not being able to do,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where you find your greatest strength.
Yes.
You recognize your vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
willing to admit it is powerful.
Yeah.
You learn your greatest lessons through that.
Yeah.
So I am stoked that this program is implemented. And
Yeah.
for a young man, I say kudos to you. And I cannot say enough about this initiative to create this. I hope this spreads out all over Africa
Mm-hmm.
and becomes more and more of a social norm and a cultural norm for us to understand that going from mental health um, assistance does not make you weak. Rather,
Yeah.
it makes you stronger and recognize that something needs to be done and not putting your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. That is not strength.
Yeah.
That is running away and refusing to seek the help that could give you joy,
Mm-hmm.
could give
Yeah.
you peace and
Mm-hmm.
understanding. And then you go home to your family whole. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Now, my last question is kind of a loaded one, um, but I ask every guest, so
Uh-huh.
this is not putting you on the spot. But
Okay.
here's knowing what you know now.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to tell your younger self an advice, give them advice and what you've learned and the push through to get to where you are,
Mm-hmm.
what in advice, knowledge, wisdom would you pass on to your younger self if you had a chance?
Wow, it's a it's a loaded question. um, my character is I'm an extremely extroverted. I think I'm ENFJ. I think if is that uh,
Yes, I've seen that.
I'm extremely extroverted,
Hmm.
and my leadership strength is winning others over.
Hmm.
Right, uh, meaning that I want to include everyone in my circle, like in every decision that I make. I want everyone to be included. So I'm extremely extroverted and like to include everyone in my in the circumstances I am in.
Hmm.
What comes with that is you find all sorts of character is coming in and trying to. So what I'm saying is that people, like, if I was younger, I would be wiser in uh, taking up roles and people. Because there have been situations in the past where I've been like, why did I sign up for this again? Why would I? Just because I was brilliant. I was brilliant at it once does not mean I'll be brilliant at it for the rest of the time.
Mm.
And then looking at other people like that I took, like I chose to work with, and I'm like, I really could have done without that person because I was at that point I was trying to win them over and try to see
Mm.
whether they can help me. So knowing that, I would give myself advice to slow down and really choose things or choose people that I work with carefully, or that I involve carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also to have more fun. I the way I release my stress is by going for hikes and discovering new things and new places.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to advise my younger self, I would go
Mm-hmm.
back and be like, hey, I should have bungee jumped there, or I should have gone whitewater rafting there. I should have. That would have made things easier now.
Mm-hmm. Go for the adventure
Go
and
for the adventure.
yes, and
And it's
learn.
okay. It's okay to be selfish once in a while and say like,
Yes.
hey, you're a really nice person, but I don't think I want to work with you because you will be a lot of work on my mental health.
Yes. Maintaining your boundaries.
Maintain my boundaries. Exactly. I do not know how to stop people from coming into my boundaries. That's just the person that I
It's
am.
a work in progress.
It's a work
You
in
find
progress.
out how to work it out. And believe me, taking from somebody who didn't have any boundaries. And I remember going to um, when I was finished school and I was doing my practicum and internship. And I remember this brilliant mentor. This lady became a mentor professionally, and she said, "I know what your problem is." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Boundaries." And I was like, "Excuse me?" I had no clue.
Mhm.
And she said, "Your problem is boundaries." And I was like, "Boundaries?" She said, "Stick with me. I'll teach you how to maintain your boundaries." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Really?" She said, "You'll see. I'll teach you." Until I started learning what my boundaries were, and I became a gatekeeper
Yeah.
to maintain my boundaries. And
Yeah.
once I learned that, now, of course, I'm like on it and making
Mhm.
sure my boundaries
Mhm.
are kept. And then, I always say, listen to your gut.
Yeah.
When your gut is telling you, and
Yeah.
like you just said, when your
Yeah.
gut is telling you, yeah, this person's a nice person, but I can only keep them as a friend,
Yeah.
cannot work with them. It's
Yeah.
not good for my professional space. It's the best time to
Yeah.
recognize how your boundaries
Yeah.
are being override.
Yeah.
You know,
That's such a good advice. Yeah, that's just, yeah. I wish I could do that. As you said, it's a work in progress. Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
proud of you
yeah.
and thank you. And I think you're going to do bigger and better and amazing things. Keep in touch.
Yeah.
We want to know more. We want
Yes.
you back.
Yep.
We
I
want you back
definitely will
to
be
tell
back.
us
Yeah.
more about the program and how you're spreading out and teaching other hospitals.
Yeah.
And of course, I would love for other people from different countries in Africa to come to you or
Yeah.
ask questions to hear this. And at least when they listen to this podcast or watch this video, get ideas and say, I wonder if we can implement this. We never thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. And then see how we can implement that because there's a global shift in mental health
Yep.
due to the pandemic. I refuse for it to only be in Europe, North America.
Mm-hmm.
I want it spread also in Africa
Mm-hmm.
so that our people can recognize the fact that it's okay. It takes nothing from you. It actually adds on to what
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
and makes us better parents, better family members,
Mm-hmm.
better staff members, better
Mm-hmm.
friends, and better neighbors.
Yes.
Because if you can implement this, we will find peace in who we are.
Yes.
My question to you is this: how can our guests, anyone who's listening or watching this, how can they get in touch with you?
Right. I will. They can email me. I think you have my email address. They can.
Yes, but you can also share it so they can listen without just writing to me.
Okay. So it's Bosibori, Bosibori, Douglas, Douglas @gmail.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram at Osorodi.
Sorority. Okay.
Yeah. So those are the easiest ways to get to me. And as I said, I'm an extrovert. I'll try and if you just shoot me an email, I'll reply almost immediately. So I like winning other people over. So probably I would want to win everyone else in Africa over.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Thank you so much for giving us your time and making room for us in this important day, because you have shed the light on amazing possibilities for our people,
Yeah.
and for people knowing that it can be done. And
Yeah.
it's important for us to grow in our culture and learn how to implement new things to get us going.
Right. And I also want to thank you because you are a champion of mental health, and
Thank you.
not only in this country of America, but in Africa. So
Appreciate it.
I wish we had like more of you to try and push the agenda of mental health in especially within the healthcare workforce,
Yes.
so that people don't
Thank you.
end up to other means of releasing stress, so to say. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And this will be posted. But I'll definitely send you the video and the audio, and you
Yeah.
can share it with your family.
Yeah.
And of course, anyone listening, go ahead and subscribe
Yeah.
to the podcast. And we definitely want to have you back
Yeah.
on the podcast to talk about what else you're implementing, how things are going, and making this a permanent fix in the hospital and spreading.
Of course.
Okay, thank you so much. Once again, my name is Stroda Aglago. Thank you for joining us on Love, Forgive, Live podcast. And Douglas, thank you so much.
As they say in Swahili, asante sana.
Yes.
All
yes.
right.
We appreciate it. Take care, and we'll definitely keep in touch, okay?
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.